Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here today. Thanks so much to Heather and Randall and to the entire Willow Books and Aquarius Press for this wonderful opportunity. It's really quite an honor to be counted among such fine poets and writers here, and yeah, I'm very grateful to be here. My book, Jasmine, is a kind of poetic memoir of my growing up years in the Philippines and my adult life in America. I'll be reading 4 poems from the manuscript. So growing up, it seems I spent many hours waiting. I don't know if kids these days still wait around a lot, but I did remember waiting for my dad at the laboratory where he worked at this medical school. And he spent most of his time behind a microscope and a typewriter, writing up reports on what he saw under the microscope. It was a really interesting place for a kid to hang out for hours. And that's the memory that inspired this poem. Waiting for my father at the university hospital lab. On his desk, coiled against a fragment of uterine wall, the fetus floated in a mason jar, pale thumb raised to its voiceless straw of neck. Shaken from mothballed sleep, my father's lab coat, starched, pressed, and lily white, sloped across his shoulders behind the Underwood typewriter. A blank sheet waited for keys to pound through carbon, malignant, benign, malignant, malignant, benign. Pipette thin, barely 9, I crossed the doorway. No sound, but the shuffle of patent shoes on tile. Clicking against the microscope, his ice cube lenses magnified that other universe, berry-stained cells congealed into rocks, ringlets, ferns unfurled, moon craters. Curled among books and paper, I became infinitesimal, a tight fist of fire and constellations, no larger than a dust mote, on the lens he polished with a scrap of chamois before peering into the rivers of a heart pinned open. Because my parents live in the Philippines and I live here and have lived here most of my adult life, there have been many arrivals and departures between us. This is a poem of departure, and it's for my mother. Lucky. My mother looks for signs on the morning of my departure. Everything means something else, she assures me when I topple a juice glass, calling it good fortune when crystal shatters. When I lose the coral earrings she gave me, she blesses heaven. Better that than your life. When she hears the flight's been delayed, burnt fuse, she's exultant, convinced the gods have foiled some evil design on my safety. It delights her when I call from the gate to say I've spilled coffee on my favorite sweater, and yes, the weather in Denver is fine. Mother of contradictions, believer in science and angels, for you I'd stoop for the wayward pin, step over each sidewalk crack, comb a field of wild clover to find you a balm for letting go. Things to tell my son about the moon. She seemed so close those October nights on the bent wood rocker, her bright disk rising at the wheel-shaped window, like the first face who greeted your pale crescent of scalp before its triumphant push into light. Then I came to know the near-perfect roundness of your head, silver-downed, nestled against my breast, taut with milk. Skin to skin we watched the night pour out from a ladle, tilted to spill the slow, spooling hours. In the silken silence of a moth's cocoon, I listened for the sound of your swallows, followed the motions of a starfish hand patting, pulling loose a strand of my hair. Somewhere I learned which cry meant you had enough or wanted more. From spring to harvest moon, I watched the shadows move across your face, explored new regions in borrowed light. I'll end with a short poem, but once again, big thanks to the good people of Willow Books and Aquarius Press for the wonderful, wonderful work you're doing for writers of color. Thank you so much. Soap. Years later, my father would tell her that while she was away visiting family overseas, the slowly shrinking soap became a sacrament of his loneliness, and how, when he bathed on the eve of my mother's return, the bar had thinned to a petal on the lip of the tub. Thank you.